Hello, hello, human design community. How are you all doing? So let me come and tag you. I'm also really sneezy. So if I start sneezing, apologies. And hopefully it doesn't look too... I've got a tissue and everything, so it doesn't look too scary. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Come and say hello as you're jumping on. I realise this light is making me look like I've got no eyes. Like, where are my eyelashes? The light is so bright. I can't actually see my eyelashes. But anyway, all is good. So I'm going to give you all a couple minutes to jump on because I know that sometimes the algorithm, notifications, whatever, it just takes a little bit of time. But as you're jumping on, come and say hello. If you have not given StreamYard permission to see your details, please could you do that so I can see your name and your beautiful face and be in conversation with you. So hello, I don't know who said hello because it won't let me. I cannot see who's saying hello. So let me just navigate back to this other page. My nose is so itchy right now. I cannot tell you how itchy my nose is. And hi, Suzanne. How are you, lovely? Do you want to give StreamYard permission to see your name, and then it will let me see without flicking back to or asking you who it is. Hi, Nadia. I'm not. You know what? I'm not sick. I've had a massive clear out in my house. For those of you who know, I always talk about your auric field, and everything that is in your space is part of your aura. And for me, I'm like, okay, let's open up my aura to expand and to receive more. And so I did a massive clear out in my house, and there's just like it's the dust that is everywhere. I can see yours, Nadia. I can see yours. I can't see anybody else's, but I can see Nadia's. So it's just the dust making me a bit sneezy. So it's so I'm totally fine and energetically more expansive because I have taken so many clothes to the charity shop. So that is all good. Okay, so enough of that. Come and say hello. Hi, Lisa. Lisa, I can't see your name either unless I go onto Facebook. So can you give StreamYard permission to see to see your name? That would be amazing. Okay, so today, alchemizing visibility fears using human design. So this is going to be obviously best for you if you're in business, but ultimately, this is going to be powerful for you whether you're in business or not, because visibility actually is about being seen in any way. No, I can't see you now. Visibility is about how we're seen in any way. So it's not only about in business, but actually business is a great example of this because everybody who's here, everybody who's listening to this in business, I know you're here because you're in a soul-led, heart-centered business, which means that actually your business, your journey, the message that you're sharing in the world, the way that you're stepping into your purpose is actually part of your evolution and your expansion. It's designed to be that way. And so I can see you, Suzanne. Amazing. And so as you're stepping into it and becoming more visible in your message and in your business and your expansion and all of those things, of course, there's going to be a level of alchemy required in order to go through that expansion. And that's the evolution. That's the soul journey that we're here to experience. However, if you're not in business, this still has an impact in every part of your life, in every area of your life. I mean, if you're a projector, for example, having that recognition, being seen, super important. If you've got any 5 energy in your chart, being seen, super important. If you like, there's lots of different examples. So when we're looking at visibility, of course, there are direct implications in a business context, but it's also actually you being seen for who you are and having people recognize and accept you for that. So when we're looking at visibility, let me know what comes up for you about being seen, about sharing your message, about speaking your truth, about sharing your desires, your emotions, your fears, like whatever it is that you're sharing, you've got to be visible to share that. So for you, what comes up? Because I can tell you what my clients share, but I want to also create some kind of interaction. Hello, I'm a generator. So I want to be able to respond to you. And while you're doing that, while you're sharing, I'm going to give you a super quick, brief intro to who I am, because I know there's lots of new members in here as well. I've done the same, done a physical deep clean, then an energy clean. And I'm the same with the coughing. Yeah, it makes you like there's so much dust, isn't there? All this dust that gets gathered in all these places. I mean, I'm still kind of going through the deep clean, but I did my wardrobe. I feel like that in itself was an achievement. So I'm celebrating it. I think that if we do what we do, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about the snotty nose. I think if we do what we do with a pure heart and integrity and don't pay attention to negative influences, it helps a lot. It does help a lot. And as you'll see as we move through this session today, it's not always as easy as not paying attention to it. It actually, like, there's a real journey involved, definitely for me, and I'll share a little bit about that in a minute as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Shari. Hello, you can probably see that. I'm a 5-2 sacral generator. I'm a mama to Archie, who's a manifester, and just obviously the joy of my life, even when he's a grumpy preteen. I have been in business for 11 years after a corporate career in marketing, business development. And in that last 11 years, I've done the whole masculine burnout business, as well as coming full circle and doing the more feminine aligned business. Well, actually, I wouldn't even say it's more feminine. It's like the harmony between the feminine and masculine aligned business. And more recently, since 2019-ish, have been, well, actually before I was embodying my human sign, 2018, 2017, 2018, I was embodying my human sign. And then 2019, really putting it into, integrating it into my business. Because I just didn't know about it before then in the way that I do about it now. But anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you. So tell me, visibility, right? What I hear the most is visibility becomes this, there's a few key places in business, because my real specialism is business, so human design in business. And there's a few key places that come up over and over again that create these barriers to business expansion, essentially business growth, business expansion. It's the fear of visibility, or visibility blocks. I mean, like the term blocks, we may talk about that later. Visibility, fear of rejection, and fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being wrong. Actually, there's a few key places, but those are kind of the primary ones. And visibility is such an important piece, because in order for your message to be heard and for you to even have this relationship built with the people who you can have a conversation with and say, hey, do you want to work with me? However that looks, then you need to be able to be visible. Your message needs to be visible. And as much as I love funnels and ads and all of these things, the biggest part of your visibility is your energy. It is your alignment with that and your navigation energetically of being seen. So recognizing where in your human design there may be places that kind of go, oh no, let's not be seen, gives you a really great indication of where you can focus some time and energy, and then alchemize what is going on in that space. And that's what I'm going to guide you through today. It's like, let's look at this as a whole picture, and then let's drill down into a couple of key places, see what's going on for you, and then talk about the alchemy process. Because in order to be seen, in order to have this visibility, your alignment doesn't have to be 100% of the time. It's about this journey, and the more that you're seen, it becomes this kind of compound effect where the more you're seen, the more comfortable you become, and the more comfortable you become, it's like exercising a muscle at the gym. It's very similar to how you decide to price your offers, your courses, your services. It's not about going straight into charge £1 million. It's about, where are you feeling that you're leaning into the edges a little bit right now, and that there's a fair energy exchange to create what is true for you now. price it at that, and then work out that muscle, like expand that muscle, expand your own connection with that for yourself. Like, you don't go to the gym and imagine that you're going to get a six pack after doing 10 sit ups. Or you don't go and pick up the biggest weight that you can pick up. Can you tell I never go to the gym and do weights? I'm like, biggest weight, what's a big weight? I don't know. You don't go straight into that, you build up to it. And it's similar to visibility, because what happens is we are often, and most of you can let me know whether this resonates or not, we're standing out and we're sharing a message that the world needs to hear. But because it's coming from our heart and soul and it's our work that we're putting out there, it can feel a lot more intimate. It can feel a lot more vulnerable. It can feel a lot more like precious to put it out there, because you're not just putting a marketing message out there like maybe you've done in the past, or maybe, if you've been in corporate careers or you've been selling something else, or if you imagine selling for other people, their work, then it has a different connotation. But we're actually putting our soul work out into the world. We're putting our heart and soul on the line and saying, hey, this is what I believe. That can feel, yeah, definitely feels vulnerable. The thing about that is, when we are in that place of feeling vulnerable, if we're not fully supported in our energy, then it can really trigger a nervous system response. It can trigger like a fear response. It can trigger okay, I want to hide response. Or if you share something that feels extra vulnerable, then it can trigger a whole like shame cycle off the back of it, and like this shame hangover or vulnerability hangover from sharing it. And the way that I work is that when you are connecting with your message, you also need to understand who you're sharing your message to and for. And for me, and the way that I share this, it's a version of you at a point in your journey. That's your soulmate client. And so your soulmate client has been through all of those experiences that you've been through when you were her. And guess what? You are not living your insta happy, like insta real happy life at that point. And so it can feel really vulnerable. Some of the things that I've shared have felt like the whole world has eaten me up at times. And I've never really put anything out that people have really judged. There's been a few times and there's been a couple of instances, but it's actually this vulnerability piece. As much as we think it's that, hold on, I'm just going to blow my nose. I'm going to mute this so I can blow my nose and come off camera, because that's not fun for you to listen to. Okay, hopefully this is not going to happen all the way through. So this vulnerability piece, because as much as there's all of these different fears that are kind of interwoven into it, and it's all in our brain, like I'm fear of being judged, I'm fear of being wrong, I'm fear of being rejected, all of those things. Yes, on some level they're there, but ultimately it's this vulnerability piece, because you're sharing your heart and soul, your work, all of these things. And sometimes for most of you, what you're sharing is so outside of the norm of the world that you're living in reality. Like my parents don't really, I mean, they're getting there, but I mean, come on, I've been in business 11 years. They don't always get what I'm talking about. They don't always understand what I'm doing. They don't always understand the online business world. They don't always understand energetics and human design. And so sometimes when I'm talking or they're asking me about what I'm working on, it's like I'm speaking another language. Or they say, I don't understand why you're doing this. Hello, are you are you being responsible with your investments, or are you it's so alien to them. So when you have all of that and you have all of those pieces, it comes down to a couple of really important places inside of you, in your human design and your energy, that actually can really support you in being visible. And I want to say about the fear piece. The fear piece is a natural part of evolution. It's a natural part of expansion. On the posts or the emails or anything that I'm sharing, where I hover over the send button, I'm like, oh, this is going to be so good. But it doesn't mean that I don't still feel the fear. because we're always in this expansion. Every time we come to this, like, butt up against the edge of our comfort zone right now and step into a new level of comfort and expansion, then what's happening is that we're being asked to explore those fears and to step into discomfort. So it's still going to be a part of the process, but it's how we navigate it in a way that's really embodied and empowered for us. And it's also using our human design, which I will come to in a second. So the thing about being visible is this: it's not really a natural thing to be the tall poppy, like the tall poppy syndrome. It's not really natural, because it's safer to be in the collective and to be in the norm and to be doing what everybody else is doing. Now, the more you hang around with people who are sharing those messages and are being vulnerable and are pushing the edges, then of course it's going to feel more natural. But it's not actually the most natural thing. People would, I feel like there's less people with, or there's some statistics, hold on, let me figure this out. There's more fear around speaking on stage than there is around dying. I think it's something like that. I think I butchered that completely, which I have a statistics degree. It displeases me when I butcher statistics. But it's that thing. The thought of standing on stage and speaking terrifies people. I mean, I have so many friends who say to me, but you're so good at talking on video, that's totally your thing. And I always say, but if you looked at my first videos, firstly, I wasn't. And secondly, it wasn't. But I knew that it was important to get my message out there. And so I continued and lent into that discomfort. Like, I wasn't great at doing it. I wouldn't be able to go, hold on, I'm just going to blow my nose, because I'd be freaking out. Oh my goodness, they're not going to think I'm professional. They're not going to think I know what I'm talking about. They're going to think I'm a joke. All of those kind of things, right? So true. I'm a minister and attend a lot of funerals. Most people would rather be in the casket than the person to deliver a eulogy. Yeah. And also with that, with being a minister and delivering for funerals, the emotions that, that I would find really, really challenging, because I'm a very emotional, sensitive person, and I don't always have, I was going to say control, but it's not so much control. I mean, yeah, it just kind of flows. So I don't know that I would be the best person to do that either. But I can set, like, put me on a stage, put me in front of a camera, and I can talk. And actually, then when I'm sharing my message, I don't mind crying in front of you. And some of you here have seen me cry when I've shared certain things. That's okay. But yeah, I think that's really powerful to be able to be a minister and share that for people as well. I want to see who I'm speaking to. Lisa. Okay. Oh no, Avril's the minister. Sorry, I got really confused. Okay. Amazing. Okay, so here's the thing about being visible. In my experience, I did not want to be visible. And when I did finally become visible and start sharing my message, it was behind the brand. It was behind the brand, and I really hid behind the brand. This is green jelly. This is the brand. You don't need to look at me, which is ironic because I went out and I was networking, and obviously I was the brand and all of those things. When I started to step into this more, I don't know, I guess personal brand space, then I really had to look at a few things in visibility. I didn't want to share my message because I was like, oh my goodness, what is my mum going to think? What are my aunts and uncles going to think if I start sharing my truth? I mean, some of my messages are like, I used to be a prostitute. Can you imagine my aunts and uncles reading that, or my parents reading that and being like, oh yeah, I totally get what you mean. It was an interesting time to step into it. And also, entwined within that for me was some personal situation that I didn't want to be visible, because I didn't want this situation to I'm trying to think of a way to explain it without Archie. but essentially I didn't want his dad to know where we were. So there was that piece as well. And what I did was I went all out, realized these things were happening, and I went all out and went, that's it. I am taking all my limitations off all over my social media, because you can choose the audience who see it. It was really locked down, like close family and friends only. And I was like, no, that's it. I'm not being limited anymore, energetically or otherwise. And I wouldn't always recommend this to everybody, by the way, but I am a very feet to the fire kind of girl. Like I can really create a lot from that energy. So I took down all of the limitations and just put myself out there in the biggest, boldest, most vulnerable way that I could to step into the action. Because in order to move beyond fears, we have to step into the action, because action actually alchemizes the fears. So I'm going to talk about a couple of places about where this sits in human design as well, so that you can start to connect with this in your own chart. So hopefully you've got your charts with you. This is not going to be like a slide presentation or anything. I'm going to talk you through it. I have a slide for reference only to show you where the centers are that I'm talking about, but actually I could go into so many different layers of where this sits within your human design that we could literally do a whole day event about this on your human design as well. I'm emotional too, but I have an undefined solar plexus I made for funeral work. Yeah, my solar plexus is completely open and my G center. So I get it. I would maybe have to master that. I mean, I did a reading at Archie's naming day. This was going back a long time though. This is like 10 years ago. And I just cried all the way through it. So totally resonate with that. Yeah, Suzanne. And for me, it's just like, where's my power? I always come back to where's my power? Some of you will have heard me say this before. Like, where's my power? Is it inside of me, or am I putting it outside of me? Am I putting it on other people or circumstances or situations or what might be? And when it's like that, how can you really navigate in a way that serves you if your power is scattered on everyone else? Okay, so here's the thing. In order to really step into visibility in an empowered, magnetic, and aligned way, two things are really going to support you. The first thing is ownership of yourself, acceptance of yourself and who you are. Because when you accept yourself and you own who you are, it doesn't matter who else does. It doesn't matter who else accepts you or recognizes you or agrees with you or any of those things, because your power is inside of you and you know who you are and you know what you stand for and you know what your message is, and you're okay with that. Because your business, I guarantee you would be sharing the message that you're sharing in your business whether you were being paid for it or not. If you had a corporate job, you'd be sharing it anyway, because it's literally encoded into who you are. So you would be sharing about it. When we step into a business realm, we start getting all muddied with the service, money, all of those kind of aspects of business. But if we strip it all back to what is at the purest essence of visibility and what you're doing and how you're sharing your message, it's this. You're sharing a heartfelt message that is coded into your soul, that you are here in this lifetime to share for a purpose that is like the collective purpose as well as your own individual purpose. And you're here to own who you are, embody who you are, be empowered in who you are, accept who you are, so that the right people hear your message at the right time, and the people it doesn't resonate with, that's okay. Does this make sense? Sorry, I ended up getting distracted. Don't worry, you can catch up. It's all perfect. So, or not catch up, like be in the energy. Be in the energy. It's all perfect. So when we have this real deep resonance, acceptance, and ownership of who we are, it changes so much. How many of you, and you don't have to say this here, but honestly, how many of you have worried about sharing a message in case people don't like it, or you felt like your message is flip-flopped around because in case, like, this is what other people in my industry are doing, or this is what I see other people doing, or because you want to filter it and kind of squash it down or make it a bit more palatable because maybe it's a bit too hard hitting, or you don't want to upset anybody, or any of those things. So what we're actually doing, and I say we because I've done this myself, like any and all of those, what we're doing is taking the power that is in our core, in our being, in our soul, our pure potent power, and we're going, You can have a little bit, you can have a little bit, you can have a little bit. Let me filter my message a little bit. You can have some of my power. You can have some of my power. And we're not doing it consciously. This is not like a conscious experience, but it is that, what if people don't get it? What if people don't like me? What if people unfollow me? What if people unsubscribe? What if people tell me I'm wrong? What if people say that it's wrong? What if people, any of those things? What if people judge me? And we really can get into that space of what if. And the truth is, if those people are the people who are going to unfollow you, unfriend you, unsubscribe, if they're going to judge you, if they're going to say you're wrong, any of those things, they're not your people. They're not your people. And that's okay too. Because you don't need all of the people to be your people. You don't need to be 100% of the people in the world need to 100% of the time resonate with your message 100% in their being. That's not how it works. Your impact is actually created more expansively by having a much more profound impact on a smaller audience. Hold on, I need to blow my nose again. I'll be back. It's a little interlude. You know what? If you weren't my people, you wouldn't still be listening to me while I'm blowing my nose. And you don't need to have everybody to be your people. The right people are your people, and that's it. But in order to really navigate this, you've got to really come back to a place of owning and accepting who you are. Now, in your human design, this sits in your G center. Now, I have got a little visual so we can have a look at where the centers are. Hold on. Share this screen. So if you've got your chart in front of you, okay, you can see, I've got the cursor in the wrong place now. You can see all of these different centers. What we're looking at is the G center here in the center of your chart. Now, the reason why we're going to explore the G center a little bit is because of this. If you have a defined G center, then it means that you have consistent access to the energy in that center. So if it's colored in on your chart, you've got consistent access to the energy in that center. What that really means is that you have got the ability to understand very deeply who you are, what your identity is, and it's generally very consistent. That means that you are the same person no matter who you're around or the environment that you're in. Defined G centers resonate? It also means that you're less influenced by other people around you generally. Now, I'm going to put this caveat in generally because there's this idea that, and it's a kind of a myth in HD, I guess, or in understanding. Some of you will know this already, but there's this kind of understanding or this thing where, well, I've got a defined center, so I've got access to that energy. Yes, and it's not always empowered. It's not always the most empowered experience, and it's not always the most empowered feeling for you. Okay, so notice when I talk a little bit about some of the disempowered energies that might also come through for you as well. Okay, with the defined G center, you have got this depth of empowerment that you can connect with. Definitely true of my defined center. Amazing. I totally hear this, and I'm true to myself and my co-directors, but we have a group who are actively trying to sabotage so much that we are losing clients, and I've had to involve the authorities. We didn't want to do that. I understand the people trying to destroy this are coming from their own fears of failure. So they want us to fail rather than rising up to our standards. Well, here's the thing with that. I still believe that the people that are right for you are still right for you, and they see beyond that. I know lots of people who've experienced similar kinds of things, and the people who are true to you are still true to you. Notwithstanding that that's a horrible situation to be in as well. Like that's not a nice situation to be in. So I really understand that piece too. It's totally taken me out of where I was. But yeah, it's not a nice situation when those things happen. And this is where the block button becomes really helpful, and all of those things, cease and desist, all of those things. Anyway, I'm not legal, so I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm defined and I have experienced being in the disempowered state of this center for taking on an identity and labels that didn't serve me. Yes, exactly. So with the undefined G center, for those of you with undefined G center, which is also me, I have undefined G center. We are the natural chameleons of the world because we're feeling lots of people's energies, lots of people's identities. And you might find that when you're around other people, you're like, oh my goodness, I love how they dress. And if you're anything like me, then you get really obsessed and go and buy all the clothes and then maybe never wear them. Hence why I'm so sneezy now after doing my wardrobe declutter. Or it works in business as well when you're around other people who you're like, oh my goodness, that's such a dialed in message. I love that message. And then you get really connected with their message and you start to take on parts of their message. Or even the business model. You have this feeling of other people's business models and you're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But actually it's amazing for them. It might not be amazing for you, or it might be, but you don't know until you are disconnected from their energy and you come back to your strategy and authority always. So when we're coming into this space of really understanding the G center, the reason why we're connecting with this is because it's the place of identity. This is where we connect with who we are. In truth, the whole of your human design is a sense of your identity and connecting and ownership of who you are and your empowerment. But the G center is such a pinnacle place in this. It's such a pinnacle piece in the puzzle, if you like, that the undefined G center is designed to be really fluid in its identity. It's designed to have all of these different experiences of different identities to come back to a place of wisdom about identity. Within that, there's also love and direction and purpose and all of those things, but we're not focusing on that today. We're focusing really on like who you are. Who do you see yourself as? So the defined G center has got consistent access to understanding who you are. The undefined G center is always feeling all of these different energies from other people. And as long as you know how to bring yourself back to empowerment, that's okay. Like that's totally fine. And I'll talk about this in a minute with the alchemy. Now, the disempowered energy of the G center looks like this, whether it's defined or undefined. I say generally it's more likely to be in the undefined purely because we don't know what's ours and what isn't, but it happens whether it's defined or undefined because of the world that we're in. This is why we always start the deconditioning in human design with your aura, your strategy, and coming back into your authority. So with your G center, the disempowered energy of this looks like, will I be accepted or rejected? Will people accept me or will people reject me? And being caught up in that, like, will people accept me for who I am? Do I need to be somebody else? Do I need to have labels? Do I accept myself? All of these different energies get really entwined in how you are visible for anything. How you show up to a party with new friends, how you show up to a new yoga class, how you show up for your business, how you show up in networking. If you've got this disempowered energetic going on with the G center, then it can be really consuming. Does that make sense? Who's resonating with this? I've been through a similar situation and come out the other side in a better place with a stronger tribe. Stay strong. Yeah, 100%. And also, yeah, I'm not gonna. I was gonna go into coaching mode. I'm not gonna do that. But yes, I'm holding you in courage and strength. Am I good enough? So am I good enough is actually a little bit more in the ego center, but you know, I have both of them undefined. They work pretty well as a tag team, to be honest. And most people have the undefined ego center. But it's like that, will I be accepted? Will people recognize me for who I am? Will people see me for who I am? Or do we start trying to be other people in a way that is disempowered? Because actually, the undefined G center, I love playing with the energy of that. It can be really empowered just to play with other people's energetics of who they are and stuff. It can be super expansive, but it's coming from a place of, do I even know who I am? Do I need to be somebody else so that I can fit in or so that I feel like I'm accepted? Okay. Do you see how this filters through into your marketing, into your messaging, into your experience of life? Does that make sense with the G center? Are you ready for me to move on to numero dos? Nadia, you impressed with my Spanish? I'm very good at ordering a glass of wine. What's really funny, when we lived in Spain, so Archie and I have lived in Spain twice, and I've lived in Spain 3 times. So when we were in South Spain and Archie was a bit older, we'd go into this is just a random aside because I'm waiting for you to put about G center. Like, does this resonate? So I'll give you a random story on the side. So when we lived in Spain and we would go and sit in the Chiringuito, and on a Sunday they'd have like flamenco or they'd have music, and it was so gorgeous. And so sit there and have some wine and some like in Spain where they because I didn't live in a touristy place, they bring you free tapas and stuff. It's the first time hearing you speak Spanish. Oh, thank you. So we'd go and sit down, and I'd be like, Archie, I'm just gonna get another glass of wine, and he'd be like, "Perdone, la cuenta, por favor." I'm like, every time I say, "Should I get another glass of wine?" He's ordering the bill, and I'm like, "Okay, let's go." That's a manifestor in action. He's like, "No, we're not staying. We're leaving." I mean, he was what? How old was he when we were in Spain? 2019. So he was like 9, 8, 9. Goodness. Okay, I feel this. I spent 2022 being too much of what other people wanted me to be and sacrificing myself for all of it, and the money and success that brought defined G center, undefined ego. Yeah. And it's really powerful when you start to because we're going really into, here's a couple places that are going to have an impact on your visibility. But when we come out and look at the whole picture, that's when we can get a real sense of this is what's going on. Because I don't know what your human design is, but you know what other people want from me and sacrifice myself is, yeah, of course it's in part your G center, but it could also be your sacral as well. So we could, like, when you look at the whole picture. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you about the second piece now. Thank you for sharing, lovely. So the second thing, let me take this off because I don't want to distract you with this. Okay, so the second thing that is required in order to step into visibility is actually a sense of safety and security and knowing that you're safe in yourself no matter what. Because some of the messages that we're sharing are naturally going to bring up fears inside of us. And in our human design, you might have access to those fears that are happening naturally anyway. You might have consistent access to fear and very specific fears in your human design. So it's naturally energy moving inside of us. And of course, when we're asked to expand and go deeper with our message, because the message that you started with in business is not the message that you're probably on now, or the message that you're going to be asked to step into. And so having this experience of my message is always evolving, that means that for me, it's a little bit like an onion. I'm always going deeper and deeper and deeper into, how am I being vulnerable with what I'm sharing? How am I going into my heart and soul of what I'm sharing? And this level of expansion, again, creates this lack of safety in our body and this discomfort. And we have to navigate that in everything that we're doing in business. So really coming to a place of what is grounding me into safety in my body? What is grounding me and supporting me to feel safe inside of myself? And this for everything in life, especially with this crazy world that we're in right now. is so important. How do you find safety inside of yourself? For most of us, we have been taught safety in a way that's not actually true. If you think about it, right, we're all conditioned for comfort, safety, and certainty. Think about the way that you've been taught that you get certainty in this world. You do well at school, you get a good job, you get a pension, you work hard, and then you've got certainty. Well, do you know what? I did it right at school. I was a bit like the person who did enough, got B's, that's okay. Got a degree, got a master's, that's okay. And went into a corporate job, and in the recession in 2008, all of a sudden I had a 10% pay cut. Well, I'd just taken out a mortgage at the peak of this like financial, like literally, I think the house the month that I bought my house in was the highest month during that whole, the subprime lending, financial crash, all those things. So I had this massive mortgage that was already maxing me out. Luckily, I had sold a house that had renovated, so there was a lot of profit in that house. So I had savings and stuff, but went into work one day and we all had a 10% pay cut. That's not really what certainty is, right? That's not actually certainty. So we've been fed this idea about what certainty, safety, security, all of those things are. But actually, for me, the biggest certainty, safety, and security in the world is inside of me. And it's inside of you. And it's for every single person here. If you've made one sale, you can make a million sales. It doesn't matter what is going on in the world. There's always a way that you can, like the word of 2020, pivot. But the more you can be nimble, the more you can adjust, the more you can adapt, whatever's going on in the world. But you have to find that safety inside of you. Otherwise, what happens is we're dictated to by the world around us and the madness that we're experiencing. And in human design theory, we're only scratching the surface of what's going to happen before we get to 2027 and this paradigm shift. And even coming out the other side, it's not like we reach 2027 and everything's amazing. It's a whole journey, and we're here for a reason. Your soul has chosen to experience this for a reason. And we've got to really ground into our own sense of safety inside of ourselves. When we're stepping into visibility, or we're expanding our visibility, or we're putting ourselves out there in a way that feels uncomfortable, part of the reaction that gets triggered inside of us is a fear that is connected with our nervous system, that is this sense of not feeling safe. So the more that we can ground into safety and support our nervous system all of the time, the more we've got this foundation, the more we're actually able to step into being visible, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it there's this level of discomfort. So imagine you're doing a TEDx talk or something. Maybe you're super comfortable doing Facebook Lives. For me, I could do this all day, every day. I just put a camera in front of me, I'll talk. You can literally see that, right? But if you put me on a TEDx stage, there might be a little bit of nervousness. There might be a little bit of discomfort, because that's not something that I'm used to doing day in, day out. I used to do keynote speaking quite a lot. I used to lecture, but I haven't done it for a long time. And I definitely haven't done it with TEDx. So you put me on that stage, there might be some discomfort. But I know how to work with my energy and how to support myself so that it's okay, so that becomes part of the expansion and I'm safe in myself. So who does this resonate with? Like this feeling of safety, sharing and being visible, how it feels with your nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, those kind of reactions. Do you feel like there is fear that is disconnecting you from this sense of safety in your energy when you're sharing things, when you're being visible, when you're sharing something vulnerable, when you're sharing like the next iteration of your message and it's brand new to your audience, for example, or you're sharing in a way that maybe you haven't done before. Maybe you're sharing on a podcast that has way more listeners than you are used to sharing. Does this make sense? This starts to get really entwined with things like ads as well, because when we're sharing in a group, when we're being visible in a group, like this space here, I have allowed every single person into this group. So I kind of have an idea about who people are in this group. I kind of have an idea that they've come here to understand more about human design. So it can feel safer to share here than it does to maybe put an ad out that I haven't got control over who's going to see it. It's a little bit like we, you know, when we're creating our vision for the business and we're like, oh, love to be whatever your version of this is, by the way. I'd love to be interviewed by Oprah, or I'd love a best-selling book that's like a New York Times bestseller, or I'd love to do a TED Talk and all of these things. But then we don't know. We're not in control of who's going to see that or see that message. So like with my book, for example, I said to my parents, I'm going to give you a copy, but you just have to read it and not make judgment on how I've written stuff or what I've said, or if I've said anything about my upbringing or any of those things. Just like, you have to take it as it is, and that's it. But beyond that, I don't know who else is going to see it or how it's going to be interpreted. And that can then create this sense of not feeling safe. I totally agree with this. It's key to move one step at a time so you don't freak out. It's easier for your nervous system, 100%. Okay, so let me share with you where that sits in your human design. Okay, I feel like every time I start doing my concentration face, I look like a little mole. I'm like, I can't see. So it actually is here in your splenic center. So your spleen is the center of your it's the center of a lot of things, but in the context of what we're sharing now, it's the center of fear. And that fear is there for a purpose that is actually not that serving for us now in the way that it used to be. And that purpose is this: you feel the fear, you react, and you don't fall off a cliff when you're a caveman, or you run away from the saber-toothed tiger when you're in that era, or you don't eat the poison berries. So the splenic center is like it's the oldest center in human design, and that fear has supported us in order to survive. But we have got survival mastered now. Sharing your message is highly unlikely to create this life or death situation. But we still have the energy inside of us anyway. We still feel the fear. But we have to remember logically that it's energy moving versus it's something I need to react because of. Does that make sense? Hi, Michelle. How are you, lovely? So who in here has a defined spleen? Let me know. So I have a defined spleen, and I have, in order to make it defined, I have a channel and several gates of that spleen, which means that not only do I feel fear in general, because I've got consistent access to that energy, but I also have very specific fears. One of my fears, as an example, is the fear of time running out. So when I'm like, quick, I need to post more, like there's time running out, I can't get it all out there, all of those things, then it creates this really disempowered reactionary experience. Whereas actually, so the fear of time running out is like the fear of purposelessness and the fear of death. So that's gate 28 for anyone who's got gate 28. And the actual empowered aspect of that energy is more about recognizing that life's here to live and to enjoy and to make the most of time and experience. It's not designed to be in this what if I'm running out of time, quick. It's not designed to be that. So when I'm feeling the fear, like, it's a natural fear, it's a natural energy inside of me, but it's not a natural reaction to something that is going to threaten my survival per se. And it is something that is going to move inside of me. It's an energy that's moving. So if you have a defined spleen, it's natural for you to feel fears. And what's super important is that you process the fears, that you work with them, that you don't make them mean something, but you recognize its energy moving inside of you. If your spleen is undefined, Who's got an undefined spleen? My spleen was removed when I was 21 due to ITP, which came from childhood trauma. Does me not having a spleen be the reason why I don't have much fear or reservations about going for my goals? No, because it's an energetic center. So, I mean, energetically in your... So let me put it this way. If you had your womb removed, for example, you would still have sacral energy. So it's the same thing because we're working with energy rather than the physical. The centers are connected to the physical, but not as literally as that necessarily. Okay. But without looking at the rest of your chart and hearing your story, I couldn't categorically say either way. But if we look at it, I'm literally fearless though. Yeah, it could come from lots of places in your chart as well. So for example, that gate 28, and I don't know if your spleen is defined or undefined, that gate 28 that I was just talking to you about is like the archetype of it is the daredevil. So I also am really fearless, and like when I'm empowered in that, I know which are the risks that are worth taking and all of those things. So it's the daredevil energy, like, yeah, jumping feet. That's why I said to you, feet to the fire energy for me, that is really good for me, but it's not always really great for everyone. So without looking at everything in your chart, I wouldn't be able to say. So the splenic center, if it's undefined, who has an undefined spleen? What that's actually doing is feeling the fears of everybody else with the defined splenic center. You might have some of your own fears as well, depending on if you've got gates or not. And of course, there's like fear is fear. It's same as emotions. We've got emotions and fears, but you will feel other people's fears around you. So if your spleen is undefined, if I'm feeling fear on a 4, you're feeling fear on an 8. You'll feel it amplified. So because of that, it might not even be your fear that you're feeling that is creating this fear of visibility or whatever is coming through. So you can disconnect and you can reconnect with who, like disconnect from everyone else and reconnect with who you are. And what happens is with the disempowered energetic, whether it's defined or undefined, is that there is this need to find safety, security, and it also has this disempowered energy of insecurity in general. So finding the safety and security inside of you and connecting with, okay, my defined spleen, of course it's going to feel these fears, but that's energy moving. And on the flip side of that, it's deeply connected to intuition. And I know when I need to listen to a fear. Versus the undefined spleen, where the wisdom of the undefined spleen, even if you're feeling everybody else's fears, is that you use that as a guide. You can navigate, like you can support them through their fears and toxicity. But if it's disempowered, whether it's defined or undefined, you're really coming from this place of, I need to find security. And security generally doesn't come in the form of, let me put my vulnerable message out into the world and hold a bigger platform and grow a bigger audience. It generally doesn't live there, right? Unless you cultivate a way for it to be safe in your body for that to happen. Okay? Does that make sense? So the way that this plays out, here's the way that we alchemize this and understand it. First of all, we have to understand it logically, which is what I've explained to you today. Second, you have to come back to what empowers you in your human design. So what does it mean to have your strategy and authority to guide you to when and how to move forward in the world? And then how do you work with what is empowered in your design? Now, it's easier to connect with your empowerment through your defined centers because you have consistent access to that energy. So after you have really understood what it means to be, like I'm a sacral generator, what it means to be a sacral generator or a splenic manifester or an emotional manifesting generator, whatever your human design type and authority is, then you want to really come back to what does it mean to be empowered in my defined centers? Because they are going to ground you, they are going to anchor you. Then from that space, you want to work on what disempowers you in your undefined centers, because that's how you access the wisdom inside of your undefined centers. Does that make sense? Let me know. Are there any questions about this? My nose has finally stopped running. Look at this. We're at the end and my nose has stopped running and itching. Yes, I'm very wary of what to do and what not to go for. So you can lean in. So actually, the way that human design works, you want to lean into what your aura says first. That's your type. So I don't know if you're a projector or a generator, or I don't know what your type is, but you work based on what your energy, like your energy type is first, and your authority. And those two things will guide you to what to go for and what not to, even if you take the splenic center away from it. Generator. Okay, so you go for your sacral response. What is the sacral response? That is what is going to guide you above and beyond anything splenic. Okay, so the way that you alchemize this is to really understand what it means to be a generator, or whatever your type is, to understand how to make aligned decisions based on your authority, because that's going to keep you connected with the feeling of safety, because it's going to support you by being in the aligned energy for your type. So you're not going to feel out of alignment, which compounds this feeling of no safety. And understanding who you are, your G center energy. I mean, I work a lot with codings. And it's literally just picking up your phone and speaking into your phone for 2 to 3 minutes about how incredible you are and who you're designed to be. So mine would be like, I'm a generator. I'm here to be really lit up and respond to what life brings me, and to follow my sacral response, and to be a chameleon and be wise about what identity I want to experience. And I don't have to rush into choosing my identity. And always the right people will come to me at the right time and resonate with my message and all of those things, so that you're grounding into this real sense of ownership of who you are. Now, I will tell you, and it's not going to come as any surprise to you, that the work that we do in the Sovereign Code, the mastermind that starts in March, however, if you sign up now, you can start your one-to-one with me, which means you get more one-to-one time. That is all about embodying your sovereignty. It is all about cultivating safety in your body. It is all about regulating your nervous system and really empowering yourself in your human design, so that you can access your own success, abundance, and wealth codes. So the work that we do in the Sovereign Code has not only life-changing implications, not my words, actually, my past clients and participants in that mastermind have said that it's life-changing, but it's also there to support your business, because what underpins your business is the energetics. So there are business trainings, but the main focus of the mastermind is your human design. But what underpins your business success is your human design. What underpins your visibility is all of those things in your human design that we spoke about today. And there's so many different aspects. So what really grounds you into your own empowerment, your own safety within yourself, and your own magnetism, is being connected and embodied with your sovereign code, which is your human design through the lens that I work with it. So I wanted to be really clear that the sovereign code is not only for like life, it's for everything. Because as somebody who once wrote a book, I can't remember, I've really got to figure out her name. She said, you can't pee in a pool and expect it not to spread. It spreads everywhere. So the people who've worked with me in the Sovereign Code have experienced life-changing, health-changing, love-changing, business-changing shifts from that work. And the reason why this is so important to recognize is that you will not empower yourself to move beyond visibility fears by doing more visibility stuff, because it's going to freak your nervous system out. It's going to create this energetic reaction inside of you that is not supportive. It doesn't lead to anything that is sustainable. And more importantly, it doesn't lead to anything that is magnetic. So instead of working harder, you get to really embody your human design, your magnetism, and your nervous system, and work in a way that is going to be sustainable, be magnetic, so you don't have to do as much work. And I am all for that, right? So if you would like information about the Sovereign Code, let me know. I think there's 9 spaces left currently. We can start straight away, because the way that it works is that you get one-to-one time with me first. So before April, you have all of that time working with me one-to-one in a really intense way not intense, intensive, catalytic. I don't know. Intense is not really the word, but you get a lot of focus so that by the time we step into the mastermind and into the group experience, you actually have a real empowered embodiment of who you are before we even start. So you don't get mixed up or lost along the way with everybody else and by me explaining to everybody else, because you're really grounded and anchored, and everybody will be really grounded and anchored into who they are before we even start. So the doors close on the 3rd of March, but if you sign up now, then you get additional time working with me one-to-one. And I will say that there is nothing else available currently for one-to-one work with me right now. This is the only way that you can do it in this way. I need to leave. I really love this session. Thank you, Nadia, for being here. As always, gorgeous. So looking forward to this. Me too, Suzanne. Okay, so I'm going to put the link for the Sovereign Code in the comments. If this speaks to you, let me know. If you have questions, let me know. There are payment plans available as well. If that is something that you want to talk about, let me know. If you have questions, I can jump on a Zoom with you and answer questions. What I promise you, and I really, really mean this because it's super important for me to share this, I will tell you straight up if this is not a good fit for you. And I will also not ever sell, convince, persuade you to buy something. What I will do is I will answer your questions. If you have fear, I'll support you with the fear. And I will really bring you back to a place where you can connect with your own sovereignty and make your own decision based on what's aligned for you. So if you have questions, let me know and I'll put the information in here. Love this. I have a non-profit and I'd love for you to deliver sessions to my employees. I would love to. It would be my joy. I love sharing this work. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. You're amazing. I love you. I'll see you soon.